This episode of Hero Movie Podcast is brought to you by listeners like you who believe in value for value. These supporters not only help keep HMP running, but also get our pre- and post-show each week, bonus episodes, voting on the movies we watch, and chances to win cool HMP prizes. Become a true HMPer today by heading on down to patreon.com/HMP and joining the ranks of the awesome today. Now on with the show. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie discussion in the multiverse. I'm your host, Adam Portrais, and I'm joined as always by Sean Keenan.
Heidi thinks Toby looks mopey.
And of course, Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear, and think of all the places I could scratch with 4 extra arms.
We can't say on this show because we're family friendly, doggone it. But yes, as you can hear, the audio quality for this week, just like last week's. How do you think that is, folks? We recorded 2 episodes at the same time. But hey, you guys get better audio on both episodes. I was trying to really come up with
And
a
our
word,
friendship gets a little bit closer.
Isn't that nice?
Because we're friends in real life, too.
Yeah, we don't hate each other off air. There are a lot of like radio people that, like, you know, when the mics are off, it is just called
We're like Harry Osborn and Peter Parker, friends forever.
basically the same.
There's
thing.
still radio people.
You know, there's
I got a story for off air.
John Boy
Okay.
and or Billy.
Oh, well, okay, fine. You brought up the name, so I'll go ahead and roll into it. They just got inducted into, like, the North Carolina Broadcaster Hall of Fame or something.
Wow.
And I'm just like, really, after, like, 45 years on the air, it took you that long to, like, what was the waiting list like?
Well, they've been saying the same jokes for the last 45 years.
Hey, they're no
very
Bob
true.
and Sherry. Are they still around?
Wow. They
It's
are.
been a while
Yeah,
since
let me tell you,
lived
I
here.
used to work
Good pull for you, sir.
I used to work in the same building as them. Not pleasant people.
Oh, I find they've been nothing but great to me.
I was like fake
Maybe
friends
it's just
with...
because it was early in the morning and I was, you know,
I'll,
news.
I'll throw out an obscure one, but I was fake friends with Candy and Potter for a brief period of time.
Oh, I'm still friends with those folks. They're nice people.
Yeah,
Like, I
they're
didn't know them that well, but I was fake friends.
Welcome to
at college.
HMP Around the Dial, the FM dial, if you will. All right, let's get into it. This week, everybody, we're going to be reviewing Spider-Man 2 because Spider-Man Homecoming is coming up and not too awful long here. We're all excited around here, and with, you know, if Civil War is anything to, you know, kind of measure it up against, this looks like it's going to be a good Spider-Man movie. So we wanted to go back and take a look at what is roundly considered to be the best Spider-Man movie that has ever been made, and that is, of course, is Spider-Man 2, starring our good friend Tobey Maguire, directed by Sam Raimi. So we'll be talking about that, everybody. Like I said, since this is a back-to-back thing, we don't have any new emails or iTunes reviews or anything, but if you'd like to,
Shame.
yeah, in the half hour between our last episodes, you guys did not give us any more iTunes reviews, and frankly, I'm a little bit peeved. So if you have a free moment in your day, man, we really do appreciate the people that go out and drop us a 5-star review on iTunes, aka a humdinger.
Humdinger.
We really appreciate that. And, of course, all the people that go to patreon.com/HMP and donate to the show. Let's go ahead and get on into it. This is the trailer for Spider-Man 2.
I believe there's a hero in all of us. Gives us strength, makes us noble. Even though sometimes we have to give up the thing we want the most.
Barker!
Where you been? Looking for you all morning.
You're late.
Always late!
You're fired.
Look at you, Peter. Your grades have been declining. You always appear exhausted.
I know, I'm trying.
So where you been, pal? You don't return my calls.
I've been kind of busy.
Taking pictures of your friend. Spider-Man killed my father.
No matter what I do,
Do you love me or not?
no matter how hard I try,
I want Spider-Man dead.
it's the ones I love who will always be the ones who pay.
I can't keep thinking about you. I'm getting married.
I want a life of my own. I'm Spider-Man. No more.
You look different.
I let things get in the way before. There was something I thought I had to do. I don't have to.
I liked seeing you tonight, Peter.
Now to the main event.
Octavius is gonna put Oscorp on the map in a way my father never even dreamed.
himself into some kind of a monster. 4 mechanical arms welded right onto his body.
You take Spider-Man's pictures. Where is he?
It's ticking me off your loyalty to Spider-Man and not your best friend. Bring Spider-Man to me.
How do I find him?
Peter Parker.
Find Spider-Man, or I'll peel the flesh off her bones.
There are bigger things happening here than me and you.
All right, everybody, that was a trailer for Spider-Man 2, our retro review of this week. Here's the IMDb plotline. As we know, IMDb always 100% correct in everything they say and or do. Peter Parker is beset. Who writes that?
Beset.
He's beset on both sides.
What
by
a
the
great...
iniquities.
Wasn't she on Newhart?
Let's start again. Peter Parker is beset.
Old man podcasting with Bruce Leslie, everybody.
What was it like driving the covered wagon to school every day?
And then his brother's name is Daryl.
No, I was talking about Bob Newhart, where he was the psychologist.
Oh, wow. They go even further back.
Gee whiz.
But I think that was Plachette, not Bissett.
Hi, Bob.
Take a
All
shot.
right. It's off the rails. Peter Parker is beset with the troubles in his failing personal life as he battles a brilliant scientist named Dr. Otto Octavius. This is directed by Sam Raimi, starring Tobey Maguire, Kirsten Dunst, Alfred Molina, James Franco, Rosemary Harris, J.K. Simmons, and more. Like I said, man, this is quite a beloved film, but and we've covered Spider-Man many a time on this here program, but my guess is our good friend Bruce Leslie has quite the comic book connection for us.
We're going to do the stinger live. Now it's time for the comic book connection.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Octopus, Otto Octavius, also known as Doc Ock. And boy, I had a cool Doc Ock action figure when I was in the 5th grade. It had all those plastic exo-tentacles that were just begging to be chewed upon. Man, I miss that toy. But comics journalist and historian Mike Conroy writes of the character. Created by Stan Lee and artist Steve Ditko, which means created by Steve Ditko. Doc Ock, as he became known, has become one of the web slinger's most persistent and dangerous foes. Doc Ock dated Aunt May, you know. That makes that time he spent in Peter's body kind of creepy. Well, creepier. But I will say this. I don't think he really loved her. I think he just wanted to marry her because in the comics she had inherited a nuclear power plant in Canada around that time. No joke. Now, Dan Slott had Otto's mind in Peter's body for a while in the pages of Superior Spider-Man.
Great run.
Guess what? It was a great run. That was the next thing in my notes. No, guess what? He was kind of better at it than Peter was. It seems obvious that an 8-legged themed hero would have an 8-legged themed villain, but an octopus is just so much more impressive than a spider. Clearly, the greatest villain in Spidey's Rogues Gallery. Stan Lee recounted that usually in creating a villain, the first thing I would think of is a name. Then I would try to think of, well, now that I've got that name, who's the character going to be and what will he do?
It's called a dream factory, everybody. It's what I do.
Spoiler warning, folks. That's where Steve Ditko would come in. Now, for some reason, I thought of an octopus. I thought, I want to call somebody Octopus, and I want him to have a couple of extra arms because he's called Octopus. But I had to figure out how to do that.
Over to you, Steve.
Stevie?
Okay, so a little bit about the mysterious Doc Ock. He was born in Schenectady, New York. Otto Octavius had a turbulent upbringing. His father, Torbert Octavius, was a factory worker, and he was abusive and violent towards both Otto and his mother, Mary Octavius. Now, young Otto's shyness and good work in school got him labeled as a teacher's pet, and he was targeted as a subject for bullying. Now, Otto was determined not to become like his father, and he threw all his efforts into his education, regularly scoring top marks. Otto's devotion to study paid off with him being awarded a university scholarship, guys. Not a community college scholarship, the whole university.
Fancy.
Now, during Otto's freshman year of college, his father died because of an industrial accident, and this pushed Otto towards the study of and obsession with physical science.
What kind of science?
You want physical or non-physical? I'll take physical.
You've done it again, Stan.
Can I have that metaphysical science class, please?
Well, he designed a set of highly advanced mechanical arms controlled via a brain-computer interface to assist him with his research into atomic physics, because why not? Now, the tentacle arms were resistant to radiation. They were capable of great strength and highly precise movements. They were attached to a harness that fit around his body. During an accidental radiation leak that ended in an explosion, the apparatus became fused to Otto Octavius's body. It was later revealed that the radiation, or possibly his own latent mutant abilities, had mutated his brain so that he could control the movement of the arms using his thoughts alone. The scientist turned to a life of crime because what else are you going to do with all those arms? Now, Dr. Octopus himself is portly, in poor physical shape, and he's nearsighted. His harness is attached to him, and it makes him more than a match for Spider-Man. So what is it about a portly, out-of-shape guy with thick glasses being able to crush his enemies that could possibly appeal to comic book readers?
Looking at you, Portrais.
Listen, I felt it across the room.
Now, this is why villains are awesome. Doc Ock created the Sinister Six and the Octobots. Now, the Octobots are octopus-themed robots that are created by Dr. Octopus just to prove that the Penguin isn't the only guy that can play that game. Now, in 2009, Dr. Octopus was ranked as IGN's 28th greatest comic book villain of all time, and I got to tell you, that sounds a little low to me. I think he should be right up there with the likes of Rhino, the Blob. But to sum it up,
I'm not falling for any of this.
Doc Ock hates kids. His voice has been compared to a walrus underwater, and he's had his own Marvel value stamp in the 70s. Guys, what more could you possibly want in a villain?
First of all, I honestly do think Octavius I think he's a great villain.
I do too.
Such a great villain. And like
both visually and thematically. I mean, I like it top to bottom.
Yeah.
Everything is so good and
way better than the Green Goblin, in my opinion, in all forms.
Well, yeah, because like you said, there's everything. There is a visual standpoint to it, and he really is kind of he gives Pete a run for his money as far as intelligence and stuff goes, and that's a really that's a great way to not only just the physical aspect of Spider-Man, but the outsmarts of Spider-Man is a big thing too.
And he has like the world's most dangerous rascal scooter. I mean, he's this fat guy dragging himself around with these arms, and I just think it's cool. I mean, he even looks almost like he can't move his own arms and legs sometimes, the way that he is drawn, and even the way he was shot in this movie, moving around.
He's got that unfortunate Pete Rose haircut in the comics.
I was about to say,
I love it.
I was about to say, Sean's got a great, got a bowl haircut in him.
That's what happens when your barber works at Warriors Bar and Grill.
I'd like the Mo Howard, please.
Whose joke? There was a joke.
I don't know.
Somebody's joke was just like, oh no, it was a Seinfeld thing. It's like she was bald, Jerry. So like, it's like, what? Maybe it was a bad haircut. Nobody walks into a salon and just goes, "I'll give me the Mo Howard." No. It was
Curly
Larry,
Howard.
No, it was,
Curly Howard.
No, the joke was actually Larry Fine.
Okay.
Because she was losing her hair.
I see.
Because no one walks in and goes, "Give me the Larry Fine."
Challenge accepted.
When you learn in real life that the voiceover talent on Ren and Stimpy was doing Larry's voice for Stimpy,
I like it. It makes sense now.
Absolutely mind blowing.
Was it Billy West?
Yes.
Yeah, because he does the best Larry Fine ever, man.
Oh, so good.
Which is a weird thing to even discover you're good at.
Yeah, how do you know that you're good at it?
The third Stooge. He's only there so they could continue to call themselves the Three Stooges.
Do you bust in at age 14? Hey, Ma, get this.
Well, you know what I used to think? I used to think that all the time with the stupid pet tricks also on Letterman. Like one time this guy pours milk into his mouth and lies down on the ground and his dog licks the milk out of his mouth. And I'm like, how do you learn that your dog's going to do that?
Hey, I know what's going to happen. Watch this. There's a lot of bets going on.
It started off with White Russians. I have a feeling. Passed out drunk with a little White Russian in your mouth, and it goes from there.
My dog prefers Caucasians.
All right, so let's get into it. So Spider-Man was the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man was a huge movie. It was absolutely just gigantic. That and X-Men really brought us into the more modern comic book age that we know.
For sure. Gateways, for sure.
And this was it was just huge. And so we were like, man, how can you follow up such a home run that was Spider-Man? And they did it again. They did it again and did it better.
When this movie came out, I can remember thinking to myself, well, they're not going to beat that. That's the best it's going to get for superhero movies right there.
Yeah. It was, and for a while, it kind of was.
Yeah.
And something too that I remember about seeing this, because of some of the scenes, some of the body horror scenes involving Doc Ock, I thought this feels so much more Raimi than the first one did.
Yeah, there's a ton of like eyeball stuff in this one too.
Yeah. And screaming, man. It is the hyperbolic scream that Raimi loves that you didn't see in Spider-Man. But in Spider-Man 2, there's not just a scream. The direction is open your mouth as wide as you can and force all the air out of your lungs as high as possible.
And we're going to try to see if we can shove a camera down your throat at the same time.
Yeah. And it's interesting because it's like with the first Spider-Man, he still had to kind of prove himself a little bit.
Yeah.
With this one, he had proven himself, and I feel like he was given free reign. And then by the third one, the studio decided we need to take control of this cash cow. And it's just weird when you see the rise and fall of those three Raimi Spider-Man movies, and you get peak Raimi in number 2.
Well,
and I think that might be why people think it's the best.
When you learn also that he didn't want anything to do with Venom, and they made him put Venom in there.
That's the biggest problem.
See, I saw an interview where he said, I didn't have a problem with Venom, I just hate Topher Grace. No, he didn't say that. That's just me, guys.
That's a Leslie exclusive.
Topher Grace, piece of garbage.
So, the first Spider-Man comes out. I can remember walking out of that going, it was good, not great, but I liked it. I didn't think it was. I certainly didn't think it was groundbreaking. I didn't like it nearly as much as when I walked out of the first Keaton Batman movie, and I definitely didn't think that it was going to rank up there with Christopher Reeve's Spider-Man or Superman. I thought that those two movies were still the high benchmarks. And then this movie comes out, Spider-Man 2 comes out, and I honestly thought to myself, well, this is as good as those movies.
And you know what's interesting is I was thinking back, and memory does not serve with this movie.
No, it does not.
Because, from a standpoint of Raimi's career, even because when you think about it, when you originally saw it, you're just like, wow, like the guy who did the Evil Dead movies is doing this. It's just like, it seems like such a gamble. But really, when you look back, that was really some of his most eclectic time out there. Because at this point, he was doing, he did Army of Darkness, of course.
Right, Darkman.
Did Darkman just before that. Quick and the Dead, which is, again, very different. Simple Plan, very, very different. For the Love of the Game, The Gift, which I think is fantastic.
Awesome.
Highly
every
underrated.
single movie you just mentioned is great.
So he was really doing a lot of great material and stuff. So it's not like the kind of modern day thing where somebody comes in, they have one little, monster, and then the next thing you know, they're directing a Star Wars movie.
Right? But I remember it feeling like that at the time.
It felt like, oh, well, the Evil Dead guy is going to do that, but he was undercover making some really great flicks.
Yep. Yeah. But I'll be honest though, I still see Evil Dead in this movie.
Oh, absolutely!
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt,
more so than I do in The Quick and the Dead.
Oh, of course. Well, oddly
I
enough,
never saw The Gift, but I assume it has a lot of body horror.
It's got some body in it. I'll tell you that.
The Gift is a great movie.
Is it a steamy romance or what is it? I've
no,
never seen it.
it's
about aliens.
I would say no. It's like
ninja.
Psychological
Psychological ninja. Sold, man.
Movie.
I'm adding it to my queue on Hulu.
So Keanu Reeves is a psychological ninja. Good Keanu Reeves role, man.
Yeah,
good
it
stuff.
is.
Like everybody's great in that movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, going into this, it was just like, wow. Like the first one, it was like, oh well, he's going to do this. Very interesting. But what he was able to do, and they like you said, they clearly let him go through, and I think there's you get to see a lot of the real Sam Raimi-ness in this stuff that you saw in the Evil Dead stuff. So stuff you saw in
like the
Darkman.
OR scene.
Well, the OR scene is the biggest one, obviously, because with the first person view of the tentacle, that's straight out of Evil Dead.
Yep.
You even get a chainsaw flying around, very
chainsaw,
Ash.
There's your Evil Dead 2 right there. So I mean, it was all. He was just like, I'm gonna put me on the map here.
And if the trivia I read is to be believed, I think John Landis was behind one of those OR masks in that
He's
scene.
credited.
He is.
So,
He is.
Yeah.
Who, by the way, top news. You seen this? John Landis, no care for comic book movies. He hates them. Says they're all terrible. And I'm just like, look, John, we're trying to make a podcast over here. How about you shut your trap and let us
He
do
said
it?
the
Well,
worst
he's
is
got a-
Chronicle. Whoever wrote that should be kicked in the hiney.
John Landis has a big surprise coming at the end of this episode.
Well, see, and here's I just go, all right, John Landis, you haven't done anything in 30 years. Until you can give me something that's worth a darn, I don't want to hear anything.
Let's
from
stop
you,
talking
Hollywood.
about John Landis.
All right, fair enough.
Let's talk about Max Landis.
So one of the things I was really surprised by watching this movie this week is how much holds up. Mm-hmm. I mean, the CGI still looks a little bit clunky, but it doesn't look like
It still holds pretty darn well in comparison to a lot of movies.
Oh
of
yeah,
this time.
I mean the second Matrix movie it's so clunky.
And something that helps some of the stuff hold up too is just the Raimi-esque visuals.
Yes.
Because those look a little bit better when they look practical rather than CGI, so a lot of the tentacle stuff works.
Yeah. And of course, John Dykstra did win an Academy Award for Best Visual Effects for this. So
Well, he should.
It makes sense.
He should.
But you're right. It does. It still holds up under pretty decent scrutiny. But I think one of the ways that it also helps is something I didn't quite remember as much on the initial viewing and everything from years ago. Is the pop aesthetic that this entire movie really has is kind of astounding. That snuck up on me, and I was like, "Wow, I did not really remember this."
Yeah. The other thing that was surprising to me too is just how old everyone looks in this movie. Because I know, I mean, I haven't seen the original Spider-Man, Raimi Spider-Man, in a while.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that they still look relatively young in that movie, but they definitely do not. I mean, there is no doubt they were in their 30s.
Was
in
this
movie.
a full 3-year cycle? Like, was this one where they didn't know they were going to make a sequel till the first one did well, or was this a 2-year cycle? Because I'm feeling like it was a 3-year cycle.
I do too. I feel like that too.
So it was 2 years between the two. Spider-Man was 02.
Wow,
this was
really?
04.
They
really
turned it
feels
around
3.
that fast? Because
It was such a hit, man.
Wow.
It was such a
And there
hit.
was time to make Seabiscuit in between. So it's
No.
yeah, Seabiscuit was made in between.
I'm thinking. I thought you were like. I'm like, Raimi did not direct Seabiscuit. You dummy. What are you?
That's another really good movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it won like some Academy Awards.
He's at the top.
Best hair and
notch
makeup or something.
there. But yeah,
For the horse.
For the horse. That's Bruce.
That's actually just a bunch of cats taped together.
No,
I don't
no.
know if you knew that.
Now this is
Two guys in a suit.
It's really good.
Just a pantomime horse. That's all that is.
You don't win best. What do you figure in 2000? Just to give you an idea of why this is a 2-year turnaround. Take a guess how much Spider-Man made worldwide.
$7 trillion.
Close.
I'm gonna say 600 million.
You're off by 200 million. $806 million in 2002 monies. That is a billy in 2017 numbers.
Not even close. Wow.
Crazy.
Wow. No, I can see that though. It was everywhere.
Yeah.
I'd make a movie for half that.
So you can see why they turned this thing around as fast as they could, for sure.
And near the end, I'm going to clear up an email we got a while back about some of my assertions about Kirsten Dunst and her boyfriend, Jake Gyllenhaal, at the time. And I look forward to going into that as it goes on. But that also plays into how urgent the turnaround was. And Seabiscuit plays into how urgent the turnaround was.
Wow, really?
Look at it.
Yeah.
Sorry I yelled at you for the Seabiscuit, but I honestly thought you were talking about Raimi, and I was just like, no.
Hey, Seabiscuit 2 was a Raimi project, but it got never got the green light.
Can we talk about the secret sauce in this movie too, which is Melina?
Oh,
Melina
yes.
is
Melina
so
is
incredible.
Melina is the
in this
glue
movie.
that holds everything together in this movie.
There is that one scene where he has the tentacles for the first time, and he's literally terrified of the tentacles.
Yeah.
But he gets angry at something that's happening around him, and he looks at the tentacles, and then he accepts them, and there's not a single lick of dialogue in that, and it's probably a minute and a half long, that scene. Mm-hmm. If you have someone terrible in that, look, Sophie Turner is a fine actress on Game of Thrones. Can you possibly see that actress
as Doc Ock
portraying anything even remotely like that in the X-Men movie.
Yeah.
Also, man, I really like how much shirtless Melina we got.
Honestly, like, and that was something that, like, I guess
body positive, man.
Melina.
But it hit me this time too. I was just like, wow, Melina's just going with basically a jacket, no shirt this movie. Good on you, big man.
And I realized he pulled the schlub scientist look off better than I remembered. Because I remembered him being a little cooler than he was. I mean, he almost has a bit, and I can't remember the actor's name, but the guy who plays the mayor on Gotham, who was on Mad About You, he almost has just a hint of that level of schlubbiness at times.
Paul Reiser.
No.
That's the only thing I could think
of. The guy that played the gynecologist friend of Paul Reiser on Mad About You. I loved Mad About You guys. We'll talk about that sometime.
I never watched that show.
Oh, it was great. It had that lady from that one movie in it.
Helen Hunt has
that's
hands.
it.
Yeah.
So does Tom Hanks.
Now, I'll say this about...
don't even get me started, dude.
I'll say this about Melina. The one complaint that I do have, and frankly, I ain't putting this on his head, his hair color is awful. Whoever is in the hair department, it's that... And you see it a lot with like aging stars today. Paul McCartney has this. It's not a hair color that's found in nature.
Right.
It's just some weird auburn
Actually,
bull
they
crap
just
that doesn't exist.
took Kirsten Dunst's wig from the first movie and put it on him.
It is bad, boy. And I'm just like, I'm looking at his hair the whole time going, just let him have some grays in there, dog. Don't.
Why does he have to have jet black hair?
It's just, it does
it
not
makes no sense.
And why not give him the bowl cut, man? This guy's fun and schlubby.
Honestly,
he could go with
by
the bowl
the
cut.
end though,
it's
a
almost
little
there.
bit down up in here. It works enough. It's not too bad.
But they went with the goggles at least, because he had the eyewear that was appropriate, and they definitely went with pulling the body along limply with the tentacles. They really shot that well, Randy.
The whole thing, again, yeah, exactly. The tentacles being the transportation for him works way better than it possibly should.
Oh, man, so good. And, the weird thing about this movie, and I didn't realize it until just watching it this time, is that this movie is not about Spider-Man at all.
No.
This is all Peter Parker, this movie. And because Spider-Man doesn't even show up for, I would say, 70% of this movie.
I was about to say 70, probably 75% even. I'm like, he's not in this thing much
I guess
all.
we should go ahead and address, at this point, was the trope of losing your powers in the second movie already worn out, or was this the movie that wore it out?
I think that Superman 2 is where it really starts the decline, to be honest with you. Because Superman 2 is the first time where I can remember thinking to myself, wow, so I guess the second movie, you're just going to lose your powers every time.
And in all fairness, it was Rocky 3 before Rocky lost his powers. So
Rocky never lost his power.
Never. You watch
Shut
it.
up,
he
Leslie.
lost the eye of the tiger
Leslie.
in 3, and
Apollo
Apollo Creed had to give it back to him.
But then he had that awesome robot.
I love the robot.
That was in the movie just because Stallone wanted to have it in there because he's like, this is boss. I'm putting it in, baby.
I told you that on the Stallone connection.
It started, he wanted to fight the robot, and then they worked their way down. Mr. T wants too much money, I'll fight a robot.
Ooh. All right. I'm pitching it right now. Stallone, Real Steel 2, he just fights the robots. Taking it. Let's do it. What, am I the only one who saw Real Steel? It's a good flick.
No, Real Steel is a good movie.
It's Rocky with robots.
Yeah,
it's
with
Rock'em
robots.
Sock'em Rocky.
I did that movie do well? I don't even remember. It couldn't have.
It did fair, from what I remember.
Like it did enough.
Yeah.
It's like the 7th highest earning Wolverine movie, I think.
It's a better Wolverine movie than every other one except for the last one.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to Dr. Octopus here. And Peter Parker delivering pizzas when we start out, man. Mm-hmm. And the world is just pounding on him.
First of all, let me ask you this. I've delivered pizzas, and not in a bicycle in New York City.
It was a moped.
Whatever. That's a part bicycle. Shut up. It's a bicycle with a motor. How dare you? He goes, you got 47 blocks to get to in 7 minutes. Have at it, or you're fired. I'm just like, at that point, I'm taking those pizzas, and I'm going home.
And the boss, Mr. Aziz. Mm-hmm. Man, that guy's so familiar. Tell me where he's from. Other stuff, other projects I've seen him in.
Sure, he's in a million different things, and I'll be very glad to tell you what those things are. And I'm thinking, oh, right, he's in The Internship and The Dictator and The Proposal.
Was he in Mad About You?
He's in A Series of Unfortunate Events.
The TV show or the movie?
The TV show.
The good one.
Oh, right, because he's the really funny guy, and the second in command.
Okay.
And of Count Olaf.
Okay, because I knew that I recognized him from a comedy role somewhere, but I couldn't put my finger on
Oh
it.
man, he is so good in that role too.
And he's good as the pizza boss.
He was in
So J.K. Simmons brought him along.
Yeah.
Man, when he, you know what? We've gone off track like a million times about this movie already. So I will fall down a hole if we start getting into.
He was in
Lemony
Sean
Snicket.
Keenan's favorite movie, Eddie.
Yeah, I like Eddie.
That's not my favorite movie. It was my first movie that I worked on.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about other people besides Mr. Aziz here. But Peter Parker's getting beaten down.
Right.
He's getting beaten down, and a lot of the problem is because whenever he's trying to go to school, do his job, or go on a date, Spider-Man gets called up.
Right.
So the way he deals with it is sort of subconsciously buries his powers, and I don't know that I buy that, man.
I don't like it.
I don't know that I buy that as the only explanation.
But don't you prefer that to having some weird thing
I
where like
prefer-
an old man wants to steal your spider power?
I prefer he just says, you know what, I can't take it anymore. I can't be Spider-Man, rather than have him take the elevator down the building because his webs quit shooting.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. That is preferable. But you know, it's that Spider-Man's always been about the internal struggle.
And I think the worst part is he gets his power back once Mary Jane wants to kiss him. You know, that's a little too on the nose for me. If we're looking at the few things I can fault with this movie, that whole arc of losing the powers and then getting them back when he wins Mary Jane's heart back, and then all of a sudden once he gets them back, all things go to squat.
Yeah, it's just, to me, it's all kind of, well, we're a family-friendly show, so how do I put it?
Garbage.
This has been this whole Spider-Man story is told by Rami has been a parable about puberty. So we can just leave it at that.
Okay, there you go. That's
Very
a
good.
good way to put it. I was
Very
just like,
good.
how do I clean this
in
up?
Austin Powers terms, his mojo.
There you go.
There you are.
But now let me ask you this, because we've gotten some feedback from listeners and stuff of people that don't like this. Peter Parker juggling all these balls in the air at the same time.
Uh-huh.
Is that something that kind of gets you guys? Do you like that, or is that something that you're just like, I want them to be Spider-Man, and that's it?
Well, I think it's true to. I mean, part of the appeal of Silver Age Marvel was they started to show real world, younger real world characters. You know, Fantastic Four wasn't a hit because of the superhero side of things; it was the soap opera side of things. And part of Peter Parker is, you know what, you're a college age guy, you are going to have to struggle, although he would have gotten a scholarship. The guy's a genius, but you are going to have to struggle delivering pizzas with going to work, which is hard enough. And then you throw the whole superhero thing, and then dating the strange 19-year-old stage actress that does period pieces set in Victorian England. That's a lot to juggle.
She's got a lot on her plate.
Not to mention Aunt May's house is in foreclosure. You know what? It does get a little ridiculous how much is dumped down.
So many things. Here is my problem with this movie, because I this movie is beloved to me, and we'll talk about why later. But Kirsten Dunst, I never liked her in these movies.
30 minutes is the time, kids.
I never liked her in these movies. I'm not going to mention the physical attributes because
I've never liked her in any movie.
I did not like her until season 2 of Fargo, and she is terrific in season 2 of Fargo.
And I haven't seen that.
It's really, really good. She is an anchor around the neck of this movie to me. I think that every time that they have her playing something serious, or like there's where she starts talking like this, and Peter, don't you get it? Don't you get it, Peter? I just need you to say I love you to me, Peter. It literally, all momentum of this movie just drops like a rock. And I'm not the person who ew, feelings. Yeah. Actually, in real life, I am that way, but not when it comes to movies. And so, that's fine. She's just not a very good actress.
And to Raimi's credit, her role in this movie is a lot smaller than it was in the first one, a lot less significant than it was in the first one. And then he goes ahead and brings in Gwen Stacy in the third one.
Isn't this a really nice way to dovetail into a story or two that you might have, Bruce Leslie?
I guess when we were talking about the original Spider-Man, I don't know when else I would have brought it up, but we had one of our listeners, send in an email that said he kind of quoted something I said on Reddit about how Kirsten Dunst wanted to convince Raimi and the producers to jettison Tobey Maguire in favor of her boyfriend, Jake Gyllenhaal. And then somebody said, okay, I mentioned this on Reddit and everybody just hammered me like, that's not true. Where's your evidence? And I told him, you know what? I don't have evidence for you, but I've got it now as to the whole picture.
The man's done the research.
Okay, so tell me if anyone is familiar with this, but during the filming of the original Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst had a relationship.
Yes.
As my understanding.
Okay, so after the movie wrapped, their relationship ended, and she started a relationship with Jake Gyllenhaal. Okay,
Step
so
up.
those things we can all agree on.
That's a step
Yeah,
up.
he was like, I'm Spider-Man. I don't need you no more. Get on out.
Okay, so in the filming of Seabiscuit, Tobey Maguire.
If this turns into Equus, we're going to have problems.
Well, in the filming of Seabiscuit, Tobey Maguire is looking at, okay, there was an $800 million box office. I got paid $4 million for that movie. So they're going to have to give it to me in the second movie.
Yeah.
So he wanted a big-time raise in the second movie.
Can't blame.
And he apparently hurt his back during Seabiscuit. Or at least, that's what he told Rami.
From my understanding, yeah, that was pretty brutal.
So he had a meeting scheduled with Rami, and instead of attending that meeting, he sent his personal neurosurgeon to tell them that his back is hurt and he may not be able to perform stunts unless he's compensated for potential injury. Essentially,
I'm sure that's how it works, but okay.
yeah, but Rami saw this as what many people see it, sort of a holdout play.
Yeah.
It's like I'm not reporting to training camp unless you give me a better contract, even though we've already got this multi-picture deal signed.
Be ashamed if something happened to you. Nice,
he was
lovely home.
supposed to get $4 million for the second movie too. So he says, you know what? We're probably just going to have to halt this production until either I get better or I get paid. Well, next thing you know, Sam Raimi has lunch with a potential replacement for Peter Parker, and that happens to be Jake Gyllenhaal, who happens to be dating Kirsten Dunst, who you can imagine may have had input into this. So the rumor mill goes that when that opportunity was opened up, she wanted to have that chemistry on screen with her real boyfriend instead of her ex-boyfriend. So that's how that spun out.
And interestingly, if memory
And then he
serves,
got a $13 million raise and his back got better. He got $17 million for the second movie instead of
and
the
he's
$4.
jumping around like Gene Kelly. I'm like, wait a minute, what's you said
You-
to that?
you-
I'm cool.
He was so happy about the $13 million raise that he didn't need a stuntman for that scene where he jumps over the car on his moped or whatever.
You wouldn't happen to know the number of that neurosurgeon, would you?
It's KL5 money,
AL5 money.
but it's spelled MUNY, money.
His name's Frank Money. He's the best in the biz.
He's Eddie Money's neurosurgeon brother. I got 2 tickets to fix your spine.
Ridiculous. Ridiculous.
But that's the story. That's the sort of roundabout story that had me so boldly proclaim that Kirsten Dunst wanted her boyfriend Jake Gyllenhaal to take his place
And
and
I feel-
take that Reddit.
I feel
Reddit.
like he was also part. I could be wrong. This may just be my memory playing tricks on me. I believe he was also partially considered way back when they were kind of doing early Spider-Man stuff, even before Raimi was attached. Back when even James Cameron was attached, because James Cameron also was going to be doing Spider-Man, wanted DiCaprio, and I think Gyllenhaal's name may have been thrown around in that mix at that time, if memory serves.
Okay, because my understanding is that it pretty much came down between either Tobey Maguire or Mr. T.
Or Mr. T. I think
I
got webs, sucker.
The funny part to that too of the casting of Tobey Maguire is at the time everyone was so nervous about him having the physique to be able to do Spider-Man. Remember, and everybody like, I'm Spider-Man, and I really want to be Spider-Man, and he did it because he's a good actor. He's Tobey Maguire. The weird part to this is that isn't he in real life Leonardo DiCaprio's best friend?
They're buddies. I know that much.
So wouldn't it make sense that if he's having all these problems with Kirsten Dunst, then you want to play hardball? I'm going to bring in my best friend for the third one, and I'm going to have no romantic love interest. I'm just going to have my dude bro over here, Leo, hanging out with me the entire movie.
Leonardo DiCaprio is Flash Thompson.
Nice.
I could totally see that.
Also, something that some commentators thought was relevant is the fact that between Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2, apparently Tobey Maguire started playing in professional poker tournaments. So the whole idea of gambling over the money thing was something psychologically they said might have played into it.
Where did you hear? Seriously?
Just someone to independently verify. Try to Google Tobey Maguire professional poker.
Now you're just making stuff up to make people do work on the
What a
internet.
weird pull if that's not true.
But he got like really serious about poker because this is like when the Texas Hold'em craze is hitting, right around 2005, 2004.
Well, the thing was the little cameras. Yeah, so you could see what the people were holding. Like
I took one of those into a casino. They kicked me out.
Explain. But I mean, on TV, televised poker only became a thing once they had those little pen cameras.
Yeah, outside of that, who cares?
See, look at these pictures, my friend.
Oh,
I try
man.
never to lead you astray.
Man alive.
Let's just into the
But
newsroom.
have you guys
Thank
ever heard of
you
Phil
very much,
Phil
intern
Hellmuth?
Noah.
Phil Hellmuth, I think is his name, professional poker player. Phil Hellmuth.
Now, is he one of the ones that wears a hat or the creepy glasses that look like the eyeballs?
He's high hatting it. He looks his
But
hat is up on
Phil
the top.
Hellmuth said that Tobey Maguire probably won more money in the private poker games with the professionals than he did in the actual professional tournaments.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I wonder if that
But
is.
he's no Chris Moneymaker.
Don't you think that? Don't you think that that's where that awesome scene in Ocean's 11 comes from? Where
I think Topher Grace. I mean, the whole connection.
It's where it's one of the funniest scenes in a movie ever, where it's Clooney and Pitt walking out of a building, and Topher Grace is between them, and everyone's screaming, "Topher, Topher!"
Yeah, I love that.
It's like, what kind of fantasy
Eddie
world
Brock,
is
you're my hero.
Eddie Brock.
Gee whiz.
So let's get to what I think is what holds up the most of this movie, because I love Melina is great in this movie, as we've spoken about before. The two set pieces in this movie are probably two of the best action set pieces in a superhero movie I've ever seen. Still, to this day, the train sequence.
Nice part about the train sequence is its simplicity. That's the biggest
and
thing.
it's a perfect use of their power set.
They tried to recreate it in the Flash TV show, and he vibrated the train through a mountain.
Yeah.
I remember that. But it's such an amazing fight. It starts off perfectly, and there's nowhere near a train when it starts.
Yeah.
And then they go somehow they end up on that elevated train, and it's so amazingly perfect. The difference between how an octopus man would fight and a Spider-Man would fight.
The nice part, too, that I don't think would probably get enough credit for it, and where I think the visual effects also just scream how good they are, is tons of wide shots.
Yeah.
There's so much wide on these things, where so many other people would be nice, tight, and close and cut. Mm-hmm. He is wide and sits there for longer than you would expect.
Something important about the train scene to me, too, is that they emphasize again that Spider-Man is the people's hero. Like the people, just like in Spider-Man 1, the people defend Spider-Man when he's down, and in Spider-Man 2, the people defend him, but then Doc Ock just pushes him aside. But even at the end, there's like one of the civilians, I'll call them, walks up and gives him his mask back, kind of like saying, "Don't worry, your secret's safe with us."
Like, that's so good.
Whereas I would have loved it if in a train in New York they take off his mask and everybody at once said, "It's that pizza delivery guy, Peter Parker," because nobody would, like, you don't really need the mask because nobody's going to know you unless they already know you.
To me, that's the perfect ending to that train sequence too. Is he's completely he saved everyone in that train, and they kind of like bring him back because he's got kind of like the Jesus thing happening,
of course,
because it is superhero, so that's what happens sometimes. And they bring him all back and they bring him to the ground. And the first thing one of the people say is, "He's just a kid."
It's powerful, dude.
It's so powerful.
It's just perfect.
And then think how much that line's going to work in Homecoming, where the guy actually looks like a kid.
Yeah, where he actually looks like he's 15.
And the kid, and those two boys go, "We found this," and they're like, "Don't worry, it's safe. Like, we won't tell anybody." Oh my God, it's such a good scene.
And what do you think is the other awesome set piece? The second one,
the clock.
Because my favorite, I don't know if you call it a set piece, but my favorite sequence in the whole thing is always going to be that OR scene.
Oh yeah,
for me,
yeah, that is a very good scene as well. But the ending to me is the best ending to any superhero movie we've ever seen.
The ending is the best. The denouement I will criticize when it's time to do
Here's
that.
the best. Here's the thing too. At the same time, like, it's while big, it's never so over the top,
Right.
that it feels like they're reaching.
Well, the end to this movie is what this entire movie is. What makes this movie work so well is that it's not. By the end, it's not Spider-Man fighting Dr. Octopus. It's Dr. Octopus fighting himself.
Right.
And he gets that redemption moment, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's time to.
He's Darth Vader throwing the Emperor down in the thing.
Exactly.
And it doesn't feel like it's not. It's about 80% there, but it doesn't. It's about 80% justified. It feels like natural. There's only about 20% in there that feels a little.
Well,
a little
I mean,
fakey.
it is a comic.
And if I'm going to find something to complain about with it, I'm going to say that I never quite understood why it was so important to Doc Ock that he recreate this big fusion experiment.
Yeah.
That he was willing to destroy the whole city for it.
Yeah, I don't understand that really either. I think that's kind of lame.
That was MacGuffin in its most MacGuffin there, that part of the movie.
MacGuffin-y.
It's got so much MacGuffin in it. It's a little much. Could you back off on the MacGuffin a tad? Send it back, please.
But the end, to me, best end fight scene in a movie. I love the action set piece on the train. I know that you love the OR scene.
Yeah.
This movie's very long. And it feels like a very, very long movie at 2 hours and 15 minutes, and it is a burgeoning 2 hours and 15 minutes, especially when you're having the third scene where they're eating.
Yeah.
in this movie.
And at the end, the denouement portion of this movie really would have been probably received better. And if it was made today, one would have been mid-credits, one would have been end credits.
Without a doubt.
But the way it stretches out here, it feels a little bit like a Peter Jackson movie ending.
And I watched the 2.1 cut, the extended cut, and that brings it up to 135. So it's
Now
chalking another 10 minutes in there.
I kind of want to talk about, and it's not a knock against this movie, but it's a knock against the power behind the throne, so to speak. The drop threads, like the stuff that could have potentially been awesome if Rami was able to continue following his vision with 3 and potentially 4. But I mean, you guys know J. Jonah Jameson's son, John Jameson or whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, we all know he goes to space and it turns him into a werewolf.
Yep.
So I
first
really
of all, could they have
was
gotten
hoping
like a more homely looking dude? There's no way he's scoring Kirsten Dunst. Like, even we've all said that she may not be the most attractive gal in the world, but that cat ain't getting.
Yeah,
her.
but he's rich. You got to remember, he's a rich astronaut.
Well,
Chicks love rich astronauts.
It's
my experience of all the lies I told girls back in the day. Rich astronaut was the best.
Look, it goes in this order: karate master, rich astronaut. That's what the ladies want.
I would just say, hey, are you into rich astronauts? Which do you like better, rich people or astronauts? Joke's on you. No choice. I'm both.
Boom.
But anyway,
Pops his collar and
imagine
rubs it in his wheel.
imagine a future movie where we got to see what Raimi would do with a werewolf in a Spider-Man movie.
Well, also Dr. Connors shows.
Yeah, we don't get to see the
we
lizard.
No payoff on Dr. Connors. That's a sad bit right there, for sure.
Yeah. I got to say, too, when we talked about this off air, the amount of people who are in this movie who are famous before this movie or after this movie comes out, there are so many famous people who have their own movies now that are in this movie. It's so fun to watch.
We get a little Joel McHale before the hair transplant.
That's right. You got the good looking Deschanel sister.
And in fact, when I'm watching this, I was like, man, whoever that guy is kind of has a Joe McHale vibe. Like, I didn't just nail me that, oh, that's Joe McHale. I had to look it up because I wasn't
everybody,
sure.
It's Bones. And all she's doing is sitting behind a desk because she's got like 2 lines.
Yeah. The lady in Hunger Games is in it too.
Elizabeth Banks.
Elizabeth Banks.
It's just like, hey, wait a minute, your Bryant there is going to be a little bit hotter than your Mary Jane. What's going on?
Well, look, that is a problem Hollywood has had forever. Why are you casting someone as Velma, and Velma is way hotter than Daphne? Yeah. Why are you doing that?
And why on earth did you have to make Scooby so much more handsome than Shaggy?
Look, Lillard has a charm of his own.
But I like a Matthew Lillard.
Me too, fella. When he showed up in Twin Peaks, I was like, hey, it's Lillard.
Was there like a direct-to-video sequel that had Seth Green as Shaggy?
I don't think so.
I don't think
there should be. I'm going to make one.
I think it's just two theatricals.
I don't think you could get him for a direct.
But I really feel like I've seen him as Shaggy before. Maybe it was an episode of Robot Chicken I watched.
Probably. Now, okay, let's talk about it. He was brought up before. What did you think about now in hindsight? Now having seen it at a much later date, what did you think about the Hal Sparks scene in the elevator?
There's no way anyone in present day knows who that guy is who's in the elevator with Spider-Man. That's what I think about.
So
it.
Hal Sparks and Joe McHale are both in this movie.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah. Where's my friend Aisha?
I don't know. Honestly, I'm surprised
she's the girl you never had.
But here's the problem. Like, I feel, and I could be wrong because I watched the extended cut. I want to know how long that scene is in the regular movie, and if the scene that's in this one is longer, because God, it feels long.
It's a lot
long. It's long in the regular one.
Okay. It is long in the regular one, but not. But Spider-Man 2.0 or 2.1, that scene, it feels like it's probably a double in 2.1 because look how hilarious Hal Sparks is.
Because he's getting into a whole thing where he's just like he's snapping his fingers doing a
right. None of that is in the original.
Didn't feel like that. Okay, good.
It isn't.
That's what I was. I was like, boy, I don't remember it going on this long. Now, because I love the humor idea of Spider-Man does not have powers, must take elevator, has to awkwardly ride down an elevator. Love it.
Yeah, that's
love that humor. But boy, does it go too far when he starts getting into the, okay, all right. So I work for a PR agency, and I'm going to go through a couple of ideas.
None of that is in the original.
That's awful. So you saved yourself a good one, because that's just... It's cringy at some point. When you get about halfway through, you're like, oh, dear Lord, please let this
They could have just went with something subtle where Hal Sparks wrinkles up his nose for a minute, and then Spider-Man goes, sorry, that was me. That would have been much better.
That is a Bruce Leslie fastball if I've ever heard one in my life.
Well, what if he farts in this one?
Needs more farts.
Put that up on the chalkboard for right now.
I've had a very stressful day.
That's a good idea. That's a good one. I like how Spider-Man's stressed and he starts farting. That's how it manifests.
Aunt May put cauliflower in my lunch. I'm sorry.
He's over there. He's fighting Doc Ock and accidentally just rips one just on account. He's like, I'm feeling crazy.
Don't get me started on stress farts.
You know what happens in boxing matches? It's got to happen to superheroes.
Was that a right hook followed up by an SBD? What's going on over here? Rosemary, what's her
Rosemary
name?
Harris.
Harris is great.
She is so good.
She is so good in this.
She really is.
And it's a look. I like a young Aunt May. I think it's better. It fits more because most people's aunts aren't 95 years old, and always on their deathbed from Spider-Man #1. But for what she has to do in this movie, gosh, she is delivering.
And she did all her own stunts in that scene with Doc Ock.
She really is.
They
she really
said
is
no,
terrific.
no, and she was like, yes.
Another really touching moment too is when she kind of gives him a wink that she knows that he's been Spider-Man. She knows he's Spider-Man, and that is a really deft touch.
Just giving him giving him the extra $20 when she's like,
just take it.
Payment, just like
when Joe McHale steals the little gold coin and she slaps him on the hand. That's a great moment too. And then it also makes me wonder what kind of bank has bags and bags of Pirates gold doubloons lying around, because he's throwing nothing but gold coins.
Well, see, this movie wasn't so far away from Lethal Weapon 2.
Yeah, okay. It's like, okay, so we've got all these Cutthroat Island coins around. We got to use them.
Where we got all these Cougarans.
Is there chocolate inside of these? What's going on?
I picture it's the world's weirdest bank where John Wick goes. That's why they have all the gold coins.
It's John Wick's bank of choice in New York City. Let's see. James Franco. Let's talk about James Franco for a second.
Here is the thing. Franco is good at times in this movie, not all the time.
Yeah. And it's a lot more roller coastery than I remember.
And for a key character, it's weird that the only thing he's given to do is just to constantly remind us he hates Spider-Man.
Right.
There's not really any arc for him here.
Yeah.
Oh, what's that? You
Until
talk about
the end.
Spider-Man? Yeah, Spider-Man. Did you say the word Spider-Man? I'm going to stab you in your sleep.
Until they have the Hamlet
Spider-Man.
reference at the end of the movie.
And when you learn who he is in real life, and it feels like the corporate guys didn't get that note that, oh, hey, you have a massive stoner playing somebody who is like supposed to be insane, and he's not gonna go full tilt boogie with you here.
Sorry, Charlie Horson over here.
Sorry, buddy.
You know what? No one would see this. This is an audio podcast.
I was pretty sure it was a back thing.
No, it was a calf thing, but I'm better now.
Bruce just did a double sow cow right here in the room. You did, yeah. It's unfortunate we're just audio, but that's how it works. But you're right. He's on a roller coaster of like, oh, really good. Then it's like, ooh, that's kind of rough. Isn't it?
Sometimes he's good, sometimes he's bad. He's bad all throughout Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, I guess this is before he got his life back on track.
Yeah.
Well, the thing, because this is still fairly early-ish in his career.
He's
and everything.
still. I mean, he is the youngest person in this movie. Sure feels that way to me. Maybe he's not, but he looks the youngest for sure.
Yeah, he still looks pretty good today. I mean, he's aged really well.
Well, he's also like super wealthy.
Well, that's true. When you can have someone make
so is Warren Buffett, but he don't look young.
It says what? It says
Warren Buffett. He don't look young.
Warren Buffett.
Warren Buffett ain't looking like a spring chicken.
You may not believe this, but he and Sly Stallone are almost the same age.
I know it.
Okay, over the top 2, Warren Buffett versus Stallone.
I got my money.
I first of all, the fact that William Goldman wrote Over the Top as a joke to prove to his buddy that he could get any movie made in Hollywood.
What a gamble.
Oh, so good.
Man, I always thought it felt like The Princess Bride.
Any other kind of points we're thinking?
I think that we've barely spoken about J.K. Simmons.
Oh gosh, yes. Why have we not?
And he is. I love this movie, and I've always loved this movie, but without a doubt, J.K. Simmons is the best thing about these movies.
Undeniable.
Not even close.
Even it's the little stuff with him, man. Like call the caterer, tell him not to open the caviar,
or they're having a conversation. He's having a conversation with Peter in the room. So he's talking to whoever is in the office across the hall, and then he keeps speaking to Robbie, and he's keeping it all. He's doing all of it at the same time. The air. So good.
And, he for the first time, he warms up on Spider-Man. He said, you know what? Spider-Man was a hero. This town needs Spider-Man. He's a savior. He's a thief. He stole my suit. Let's expose him for the criminal he is. How quickly he changes gears.
I absolutely love the turn on the dime. And we were talking about it earlier off air and everything. It is going to be so, like, whenever they decide to do it, sure, he's Commissioner Gordon in these new upcoming Justice League flick, whatever. God, if he's so perfect. I don't know who we can have replace him as J. Jonah Jameson. It's just impossible. It's so perfect that it's just I don't know that you can do it again. I
think that you go against who you had before. Basically meaning you're never going to find someone who's as good as J.K. Simmons as that type of role. So you're going to have to go the exact opposite way.
Like Jon Stewart.
But it was but it was so tough because like when he came on the screen, even from the first one, you were just like, this is what I read in a book. This is that character. Yes. It's just like someone said make life, and then he just jumped off the page and said, "Hello, everyone. I'm J.K. Simmons." The best
it's like
thing
Weird
about
Science. They hooked it up to the computer.
The way they made data in Weird Science, I really was about to say that. Oh.
For those of you keeping it home, that's 5 Weird Science references.
Based on a comic book.
No, is it really?
Weird Science was a comic book. It was like in the old EC Comics days.
Well. You know what we'll be eventually doing? It's going to happen. All right, so while we're getting on down to the end here, we have to do what we do on every single one of our episodes as we find out how this movie relates back to Sylvester Stallone.
Say thanks, Adam. I have a prepared statement.
Oh.
The director, John Landis, plays the role of Doctor in Spider-Man 2. I don't know why he's the Doctor. Maybe he's friends with Sam Raimi, or maybe he asked if he could be in it. But I'd like to think he auditioned for the role. standing in line with hundreds of other hopefuls that sort of kind of look like him, each looking for their big break. And then on sheer talent alone, he got cast. So he stood up, looked at the casting director and said, "You fools! You've been bested by legendary film director John Landis." In case you don't know, John Landis directed some of the most influential comedies of all time. Kentucky Fried Movie, Animal House, The Blues Brothers, and An American Werewolf in London. In a row.
Quite impressive.
That's insane. I can't think of someone with that kind of hit count with that much variety. I mean, sure, Charlie Chaplin had a string of hits in a row, but he was basically making the same movie over and over again. And your only options back then were for entertainment were to either see Charlie Chaplin's new movie or watch Grandpa move a little wooden man on a stick so it looked like he was dancing.
I really thought you were going to say watch Grandpa die slowly of tuberculosis.
You got your column A, you got your column B.
Landis also directed Trading Places, Twilight Zone the movie, and Michael Jackson's Thriller in a row. He would go on to direct Three Amigos, Amazon Women on the Moon, and Coming to America in a row. Incredible body of work. But like most comedians, he lost his fastball and started directing movies like Blues Brothers 2000 and Beverly Hills Cop 3 and the 1996 Tom Arnold movie The Stupids. Incredibly, the lead role...
Have you seen The Stupids, Bruce? I have.
Incredibly, the lead role in The Stupids was first offered to Jack Nicholson.
What? I would love to see Jack Nicholson in that flick. Holy
but
snot.
for reasons that have never been given... Jack Nicholson turned down their offer.
Huh.
That's true. John Landis has made many, many incredible movies that have made it into the American zeitgeist, and it's impossible to think about what comedy would look like today if he hadn't been so involved in it. So it feels like I'm kicking myself in the nuts to say the words, he also directed the Sylvester Stallone comedy Oscar. It hurts, you guys. It hurts so bad. John Landis is awesome. He's become a TV director, and one of the most notable bits of his later resume being he directed a few episodes of Psych, a TV show that's pretty good, actually. You got some time to waste, so you're like, hey, what's this about? It's all right.
I heard something about a pineapple.
That's right. But let's get into Oscar. I saw this movie more than 25 years ago, so I don't remember much. And instead, let's go to the most trusted source for movie analysis, IMDb user reviews.
Oh, the greatest.
On January 24th of 2004, someone who goes by the name of Flamey wrote, I'm trying not to laugh. I need more tissues. I can hardly breathe. You would call me a fool when I said I loved this movie, and it is my all-time favorite.
Who writes like this?
Along with the Man Who Knew Too Little.
That's his favorite.
This movie brought two of my favorite elements of cinema together. Gangster flick plus situation comedy. Oh boy! Stallone was very much convincing as Angelo. And you gotta love Chaz Palminteri as Connie. 10 out of 10. Now that is brave on my part. Thank you very much, Flamey.
Oh.
Now, you know, after reading through IMDb user reviews this go round, I think I've realized something. The only people who post their thoughts on IMDb are foreign people, old people, and the developmentally challenged. I imagine it's difficult to type your hot take onto the World Wide Web when you don't speak the language or can't see the keyboard. So there you have it, HMPers. This week's Stallone Connection. Now, Mopey, Parker, and Snaggletooth, let's review Spider-Man 2, because that's kind of what we do.
All right, let's get down to it here on Hero Movie Podcast. We don't have stars. We don't have any of that garbage. We have our own garbage. It's called the HMP, patented Robin rating system. If you'd like to see what that is, head on down to Facebook.com/Hero Movie Podcast. It's right there at the top of the page. And while you're there, why don't you go ahead and hit that like button? We'd really appreciate that. Bruce, where does Spider-Man 2 fall in the official Robin rating system for you, sir?
Well, a wise man once said, of all the Charlie Browns in the world, you're the Charlie Browniest. And I would say, of all the Sam Raimi movies about Spider-Man in the world, this one is the Sam Raimiest. I love the visuals. I love the hyperbolic screaming that I talked about. The way that Raimi shows motion reminds me so much of the very best of the Evil Dead franchise. The movie does have some flaws. You know, we talked about the trope of losing your power in the second movie. That's really grown tired and causes this film to show its age, in my opinion. The denouement drags on too long, daring to enter Return of the King territory. But overall, you'll be hard-pressed to find someone who does not enjoy this movie. So I'm going to give it a Tim Drake.
Very good, Mr. Keenan.
This movie is forever long. You need to take a sandwich and maybe get a nap in while you're watching it. However, the end of this movie is so terrific, and Molina and Maguire, quite frankly, we didn't mention that enough. I think that Tobey Maguire is actually really good in this movie. Mm-hmm. I'm giving it a Dick Grayson. It still holds up in my opinion. It's terrific. It is by far the best movie of this era as far as superhero movies are concerned. I think you have in the 70s you have Reeves Superman, and in the late 80s, early 90s you have Keaton's Batman, and then you have this movie as Maguire's Spider-Man. This is the best of the best during this age.
Yeah, no doubt. So if you'd asked me 2 weeks ago, I would have probably said, you know, leaning towards a Dick Grayson on this one. Very strong Tim Drake, though. It still holds up. There's a little bit of aginess in it, yes, and that's bound to happen,
yes,
you know,
sure.
well over 10 years away. So it makes sense enough. There are some moments. Tobey Maguire is good for the most part. There's a couple of moments, like, you know, when like he's talking with Aunt May at the beginning there, and the look on his face when she kind of talks about, you know, Uncle Ben dying and like what she would do if she could, you know, get a hold of whoever did that, kind of, so to speak. Mm-hmm. His look back there is really good, but he also mars it up somewhere with like the look on his face when he's stopping on the train is just like, who said this was a good idea? I know it's difficult. Do you have to look like you're literally in a wind tunnel with however is right. Bad? But it's a fun movie. The CGI holds up pretty darn well, and it's tough to beat for a Spider-Man film as it stands right now as of this recording.
Right.
It is the best one we got.
Yep.
And I'll say this, just wrapping up, is that Tobey Maguire is probably like we had two problems with the this Spider-Man and the Amazing Spider-Man. This Spider-Man, Peter Parker, he was like, Tobey Maguire's a better Peter Parker. Andrew Garfield was a better Spider-Man as far as like personality-wise.
Yes, agreed.
And I only wish that's one of the big things watching back. It's just like, man, I really wish we would have had some of that nice Spidey comedy in there, because that's, to me, that's so much of who Spider-Man really is. Yeah. And that is still a little bit of a disappointment. But hey, we're all looking forward to the next Spider-Man movie. So if Civil War is any indication, we're gonna get a lot of quipping, a lot of jabba jawing in it. So yeah. I'm a fan.
Do you think that will allude to Tony Stark at all?
I don't know. So that is it, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate it. Next week, we're actually going to be doing our Patreon. We don't know what it is right now because not everybody has yet voted. And if you'd like to vote on that, you go to patreon.com/HMP. It's right up there. If you can vote at any level, if it's $1 level on up, come on in. You know, the water is fine.
I'm lobbying for Sophie's Choice, guys.
And remember, if you get the $5 level, you do get the pre and post show and all that kind of good jazz. More bang for your buck. The video's up there. So patreon.com/HMP. Thank you guys so much. Until next time, Bruce, where can we find more of your work on the internet, sir?
You want to go to Amazon.com. You want to search Chubby Wizard. You want to buy that thing, man. The ebook is $1.99. If you want to live on the wild side, spend just a shade under $8 to get the paperback. There's also Dragon in the Needles there. That one's on Audible, so you ought to check that out, man. It's an Audible credit if you haven't checked it out yet. And why don't you go check me out on When Nerds Collide? I was a guest on that podcast talking about the Dresden Files. I love the Dresden Files, and these other guys won't ever talk to me about it, so I had to go on a different show.
Very good, Mr. Keenan.
You can find me on Twitter at Hero Movie Sean and also Preacher Podcasts.
Yes, indeed.
Which we hope you guys enjoy the first episode coming out any day now.
Yeah, because when we're recording this, it's still a little ways
It's like
off.
this is like the podcasting version of Time Hop on Facebook here.
Who's scared?
I don't know what that means.
I barely know what that means. But anyways, you don't need to know what that means. But join us here next week. Join iTunes, Stitcher, all that kind of good stuff. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you next week. For Bruce, Leslie, Sean, Keenan, I'm Adam Portrais. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Eva.